moving forward, when we talk about ecosystem, there are multiple types of ecosystems. Okay, so the multiple type of ecosystems are divided with respect to certain factors that might be climatic, that might be available of nutrients, that might be available of let's say nitrogen, sulfur, and so on. So all these factors, all the biogeochemical cycles, as well as all the available community interactions together regulate what kind of ecosystem will be there. So when we started with ecology, we studied how different factors, let's say the starting factor from radiation, solar radiation, decides which area will be a forest and which area will be a desert. Okay, so the systems altogether functions to form out natural ecosystems. So there are natural ecosystems, there are artificial ecosystems, but the system that functions together to form terrestrial ecosystems are tropical forest, savannas, grasslands, desert, then there is shrublands, forest, Arctic tundra, and so on. So these are the example of terrestrial ecosystems. Okay, so, but within ecosystem you'll find, like, you can just talk about forest ecosystem. Within ecosystem there are multiple zones. You have studied about ecotones and ecological zones, right? So there are multiple zones within a forest. Even there are multiple ecosystems. Then there is aquatic and semi-aquatic. Semi-aquatic systems are regions which has interactions of both land and water, whereas aquatic systems talks about systems where there are only water. Usually freshwater talks about lakes, rivers, and stream flow, whereas marine ecosystems talk about pelagic systems, benthic systems, and corals. So we'll talk about the biomes and all the functions of these particular setups in detail as well. But these are just to give an idea that there are multiple ecosystems in biomes. Okay, and these ecosystems functions together to form out a particular biosphere. So when we talk about net primary productivity and different ecosystems throughout the world, it is important to understand how much of area does it cover with respect to what is the amount of productivity that happens within that area as well. Okay, so this gives an idea about mean biomass with respect to the unit area, and if the area is smaller and it is producing large number of biomass, or let's say productivity is higher, then that is more efficient systems, right? So when we compare that, we'll get that idea that tropical rainforests have the highest amount of primary productivity and the most important ecosystems, followed by algal beds and coral reefs. So these kind of ecosystems have lower areas but produce large number of productivity. Their biomass is pretty high. As you can see, this much of area produces this much of primary productivity. So you can compare that and you can look at how much of area does the algal beds and reefs cover, but the same amount of energy is produced. So obviously the algal beds and bed reefs are better primary producers, and tropical rainforest followed by that. Apart from that, all other lands such as swamps and marshes also good primary productivity units, such as you can see how much of productivity does an organism produces. So they also are major ecosystems which helps in production of oxygen and as well as biomass. Now other such ecosystems which are present, like temperate evergreen forest, deciduous forest, boreal forest, on all of the regions are comparatively lower producing primary regions. And then when we come to grasslands, might be savanna grasslands, Arctic grasslands, temperate grasslands, so all this region are also comparatively lesser. So the lowest amount of production will be in desert as well as rock, ice, and sand. Although it seems negligible, but they have some sort of production as well. Now these variations within different ecosystems focuses on which ecosystem to focus more on for conservation, as well as for different kind of methodologies which is required to save and protect the earth's ecosystems, as well as the entire earth biogeography or biosphere. So that gives the entire idea of how productivity and energetics function around ecosystems. Well, it seems complicated, but the thing is, within ecosystems, there are multiple setups, multiple scenarios, multiple links and chains which function together to give out how an organism will survive, will communicate, will live together with multiple populations, and how multiple population will be able to utilize the available resources, how they'll compete, and how they'll live around. Now, all of these interactions within a particular system and the ecological factors, starting from the point where we studied about how ecology is regulated by multiple factors, decides which will be a forest or which will be a desert. And that gives to the point where we'll be studying about the biogeography in detail. So this is it for this lecture. Thank you.